Hi, it's Richard here from Intelligent Advisor IT Consulting with a simple project to test Code Project AI services locally running with Oracle Policy Modeling without having to use an internet connection, without having to use a interview connection API, just simply trying to do everything locally. So OPM is installed, and also the Code Project AI server is installed locally as well. And for the purposes of this demo, we're going to look at a couple of modules. We're going to look at text summary and sentiment analysis. Those are the two that I've installed. You can see that there's a whole bunch of other ones that I could have installed, and I'm sure we'll talk about those in due course. So it's installed locally, which means that I'm not going to be able to use a interview connection, since the interview connection goes through the hub, which is good because that makes it much more secure and what have you. But for a simple demo or a situation where I don't have internet, this means that my project, whilst it's going to use a JavaScript extension as it normally would for each of these functionalities, it means that I'm going to use the standard fetch, the Mozilla fetch, if you will, rather than the interview fetch. So if I take a look at sentiment analysis as an example, you'll see in this file that, okay, outside of the typical stuff, we have a fetch. So we have our fetch, and we fetch it from the local server, and we process the response, and we catch any errors. So this is exactly what you would do with an interview fetch, except that you're using fetch. I know that sounds silly, but the point is that this is the one that lets me use a local solution rather than a server-side Oracle Intelligent Advisor Hub solution. So it's not good for production, it's not good for real life, but it's great for demos. So I'm just going to take the output of the service and drop it into a text area so we can see the result. Naturally enough, this is not something you would do in real life. So as you can see here, I'm going to ask people for the text they want to analyze, and this call service here will be turned into a button, and it will also display the output in another text area. Because fetch is not supported by Internet Explorer, I can't use the debug button directly. I have to use the debug button with the control key, or control F5, which does the same thing, as you probably know. The debugger will start and you'll see a bunch of syntax errors because the JavaScript that I've written doesn't work in the debugger. But you should also see that it's opened up in the normal browser, and here it is working, and you can see that it's localhost. So I'm going to type in some text for sentiment analysis. And we can see our project has opened in the normal browser and it's running in localhost. And when I use the get sentiment feature, it's going to be calling the local AI server. So I really like this feature, get sentiment, and you can see that the output is dropped into the second text area, and this is actually the output from the service. A variety of parameters, including the speed, including the probability, whether it's positive or not, or the success of the call. So that basically means that it was received and processed. And over here on the server, we can see that at 8:44, which is the current time, it processed a call. So this is all happening locally. If I'm interested in it, I can, of course, do all the sort of things that you'd expect to do. So I can go to my console and I can take a look at my fetch, and I can see the output. And I can see that there are other parameters, and I can take a look at the payload, So it's no different to using interview fetch. You're just using fetch, and you're using a local AI server. The second one, which is text summary, for that I'm going to need some more text. So I'm going to copy some text here, and I'm going to post it into my thing for summarizing, and I'm going to just make it easier to read. I'll open it up so you can see it and get rid of the spelling mistake. So I have a bunch of text. And in this particular one, I'm specifying the text, but I'm also specifying the number of sentences. And in this example, I've chosen the number 1. I've hard-coded it in the service. So I'll choose Get Summary. And it says, yes, I'm successful. And the summary is, we'll be using Code Project AI as a focus for articles on exploration to make it fun and painless to learn AI programming. which is a pretty damn good summary of that text. Again, it's been using it locally. If I go over here, we'll see that the text summary took, yeah, you can see it, command summarize, so you can do all of your debugging and your testing. Over in the code, if I go to the summary analysis, you can see that the only real difference is that I have to provide the number of sentences, and it's coded to 1. Other than that, my example is pretty much identical. There's no reason not to like this. There's no reason not to like the idea of experimenting with use cases for artificial intelligence services in Oracle Intelligent Advisor. There's no reason to not like the fact that it's local. I'm not paying for it. I'm not shipping data across the internet. I'm using it locally. It means I don't need a hub. So if I need to do a demo, it's quick and easy. And of course, you can combine it into all sorts of more sophisticated use cases. And as I said earlier, there are, of course, a large number of modules that we might want to use, whether it be face processing, license plate reader, object detection, character recognition, scene classification. You know, there's a whole bunch of stuff in here that we're going to be using a little bit later on, I'm sure, in some of our blog posts. But for now, that's it.